I've been involved with AI since about 1990 when I developed expert systems for Ingersoll Rand. I soon quit that job to start a consultancy developing expert systems, and that was a time when I was super ambitious and trying to stick my toe in the business world and chasing a gold ring. And I quit that job with all its security and stability to start Asking Associates and develop expert systems. And expert systems are rule-based systems that mimic human thought. And it's come a long way in those 30 plus years. And just want to talk a little bit about that in personal style. So expert systems sort of used fuzzy logic. They said, if these sorts of things will happen, how likely is it to happen? And it did some computations that would give you reasonable results. And it's kind of simple in many ways, this rule-based or heuristic system. Different than machine learning in the sense that, I input things. And I found it interesting because I enjoyed working with people, enjoyed learning new things and diving deeply into processes and trying to understand things that are both spoken and unspoken. And but pulled out of that and getting married and all those kind of pressures of life and went more into, I'll say, corporate work and then anyway, long story, I guess, as far as my involvement with it. But it's interesting to see it come around to the point now where a simple typing of text generates imagery, it generates reports, it generates stories, it generates all sorts of things. And so it's really fascinating. It also, not only in the creative realm, but also certainly in the medical realm in which I work, it's been very useful in helping diagnose problems. And it's certainly useful in taking a lot of data and making it accessible. So it's sort of democratized a lot of things. It's enfranchised people that otherwise wouldn't be so. And it turns thinkers into artists. It turns computer scientists into pathologists, and it does all sorts of things. So it's sort of is in flux right now as we kind of unpack the good things and the bad things from AI generally. But, I've used it in certainly creating images and did two book covers. One short story, one is a book cover with it. And it's just really a useful tool. Now, as it turns out, I write poetry and do creative writing too. And I kind of want some kind of watermark saying that absolutely none of this was generated by AI, and I think that will come forward. And the same is true with my artwork. I guess that will come forward in some way to make some kind of assertion that none of this has been influenced by AI. And, that leads to authenticity and other concerns that are very human and valid. So on the flip side, though, I have used it for some image generation, and I don't mind saying that. And when I've put it out there, I say it's been product of AI, and I just think that's honest with it. But it does lead to the issue of personal style, and that's kind of fascinating to me. Like, where does AI and the human intersect? And there's too much discussion about this already, so I appreciate your patience. Just a few thoughts on it, because part of the weaknesses of AI is the data set upon which it chews on. So the curation of data that goes into AI is like unknown. There is someone behind the curtain. And I think if you're curating your own data set and massaging it in a way, that's your business. That's fine. When you go outside your own creative work, then you have some other issues. And, I think of Picasso, who I think is a great artist, but if you look at his early work, you'd say that's not Picasso. People get this sort of Thomas Kincaid sense of brand that represents them for good or for bad. So in the commercial realm, at least talking about commercial art, that's the thing. People, I did a long series of paintings with inks and acrylics that I would sell, and it was sort of a look I had. But I don't embrace that stuff because I think artists move on to something else. I think we always need to move on to something else. and you can get stuck in your own style. And whether that's Andy Warhol or Picasso or the Impressionists or Thomas Kinkade, as I mentioned, it's sort of the problem of success. So those of us who are less successful maybe are more free to explore things, and that's fine. Because I think one useful human attribute that we can put forward in the face of AI's push into our life is the element of surprise and the ability to say, I'm going to do something completely different, something you haven't seen, and that's really interesting. And where does that surprise come from? What drives it? Well, sure, it's cultural forces. It's not something maybe deeply buried in our minds, but it is influenced by things outside of us, which maybe can be predicted. So my surprise might actually be a reflection of some influencer or pop icon's change in style, and that in turn informs me. I really don't know. And you can get lost in that in that sort of introspection. But anyway, I just think that I'm still trying to work out the power of the AI. It's just funny for me to see it come back like this so many years after I was involved with it, in sort of, you might say, a primitive level with expert systems. But even then, I started my business in late '91, and I thought this is it. But I am sufficiently lacking in skill that I couldn't make it, obviously, a big business. But it was interesting. And it's easy to stick your toe in things when you're young and try stuff and fail. And I remember with this business, I don't know if I'd call it so much failing. It's just it wasn't growing the way I wanted to. And when life's responsibilities bear upon you, especially health insurance and such, you can't keep chasing dreams when when you just need some stability in your life. So, and that's the way lives are lived for, us working class folks that just need to get, make a living and pay taxes and do all those kind of good things. But anyway, fascinating to see how this develops, kind of the rambling talk, but I'm really fascinated by these next chapters and how we integrate them. Thank you.